Well, you know what? The producer put it up anyway, you know.
I'm going to be speaking to the Congressional Health Caucus week after next to talk about some things, because it's very important that people put forward a plan. And, the thing that I favor is using electronic medical records that are embedded in a microchip, not in cyberspace so that anybody can get it. And think about the savings. People know your allergies, your medications, whether there was a spot in your lung 5 years ago, just by popping it into the computer, and you maintain control of it. It saves us an enormous amount of money. All the dental records will be there.
In case you didn't hear it. But he actually mentions embedding the information into the chip. So what do you think they're going to do with the chip? They're going to put the chip in you eventually, okay?
They even got nanotechnology where they're making the chips even smaller. And there's more proof in the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, that is talking about the mark of the beast or the microchip. This is Revelation 13:18. It says, "Here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast. For it is the number of a man, and his number is 666." Now, when you break down the word 666, or that number, in the Greek, it breaks down to 3 different Greek characters, which is chi, psi, and stigma. Now, when you click on chi, psi, and stigma, and you go to the actual, the Greek, it doesn't break down the number. It just goes into saying how it translates to 666. It doesn't go down to the breakdown of the word. But now, when you know the Greek, there's three numbers. There's chi, which is 600, psi, which is 60, and stigma, which is 6. Now, when you look up the word stigma, because you have to actually look up that word stigma. There's a scripture in the book of Galatians, the 6th chapter, the 17th verse, that says, "From henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Yahushai." And when you look up that word marks, it goes to the Greek word stigma. And when you click on the word stigma, it breaks it down to stick. An example, prick. It says, "A mark pricked in or branded upon the body." To ancient Oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name of the stamp of their master or commander branded or pricked, cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belonged to. And there were even some devotees who stamped themselves in this way with the token of their gods. So pretty much, and then it goes on to say stigma, stizo, to stick, prick, a mark incised or punched for recognition of ownership. An example, figuratively, scar of service, mark. So basically, it's a symbol, a mark that's actually imprinted into you to distinguish what master you belong to. In this case, the so-called international bankers who have this technology of the RFID microchip to embed into their slaves so that they can be slaves forever.
Very important that people put forward
AUL.
So basically that's letting you know that it's something that's like with horses. You brand the horse, you burn a brand into them. But some horses you can, or cows, you can put, they have some rings that they put on them with a number attached to them, to differentiate the name of that particular cow and who that cow belonged to and how many times that cow was mated and so on and so forth. And that's the same thing that they're doing with people of the world. Because what they want is they want slaves.
They want control.
Slaves. Control, right.
It's all about control. I got an example for you brothers out there.
Yeah, let me read this real quick.
Yeah.
Exodus 21:5. And if it talks about your servant and master relationship, right? let me start at damn, you really got to start from the first. Okay, I'll start from the first. I might jump around. It says Exodus 21:1. Now these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. These are laws that the Most High gave to Moses, Moses gave to the children of Israel, right? It says when they were going into the land. If thou buy an Hebrew servant, all right, 6 years he shall serve. That's talking about your people. When you own a business, I'm talking about today, the modern day, present day, and you employ somebody, that's the employer-employee relationship, which is that of a master and a slave. Okay? That's where the language goes back to. So in the ancient world, you had that. You had Israelites that were servants under other Israelites. It says, second verse, if thou buy an Hebrew servant, it says, if thou buy a Hebrew, this is Moses telling the children of Israel, which are Hebrews, if thou buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years shall he serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. So when you go to the story of Jacob, right, and he got with Rachel and Leah, he had to do what? He had to become a slave under
Laban.
Was that Laban?
Yeah.
That was you're right. That was Laban. You're right, Junior.
Yeah.
That was Laban. So Laban tricked him. He said, "Well, you got to work 7 years for my first daughter."
Right.
And then when he went in to lay with Rachel, it was Leah. Then he kind of said, "Well, wait a minute, man. You pulled a fast one on me, man."
Yeah.
So what he did was he pulled out the custom. He said, "Well, the custom said the oldest got to go before the youngest."
The oldest daughter, right?
But if you still want Rachel, you work another 7 years.
Yeah.
And Jacob was so in love with Rachel that he said that it went like, what is it?
A few days.
A few days or a week or something like that.
Yeah,
and said it went like nothing.
Yep.
So she was like 7 years later, she was still fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, hell yeah. Every day.
So that shows you that custom
Yeah.
transferred into the law. Okay.
Yeah. You know
It was a custom first, which is like an unwritten law.
That's right.
So now it became written in stone, literally.
That's right.
It says, in the seventh he shall go out free for nothing. Now Esau, I've been watching these, and I tell you brothers all the time, watch these financial shows, man. I was listening to Max Kaiser. He does a show on RT. He does like a show, I think 5 days a week. And the last show he did, they were talking about the economic situation, world situation. And he had this guest on from England, and they were talking about how this economic system that they set up with the debt system, there's a certain point where everybody goes bankrupt. There's no more money. We're in that point right now. And he basically started referring to the scriptures. So that's what they're talking about. They're talking about, well, we got to go to the scriptures now, and we got to apply what the scriptures speak about. And he mentioned Jubilee. He said there's a thing in the scripture. If you go to Google and you put world economic leaders and Jubilee, it might come up. So now if you go to the scriptures and you read about the Jubilee is a release. So once every 50 years, whatever debt that you owed to anybody, you are also freed from your masters in that 50-year period. So if you owed a great deal of money or cattle or whatever to somebody, when the year of Jubilee came in, that was forgiven. What he didn't mention was a year of release, which comes up every 7 years, which Esau today uses a statute of limitation. When you have a credit card bill that you can't pay the debt, it's 7 or 8 years, you get a clean slate. Where did they get that from? They got that from the scripture.